Ladies and gentlemen, in today's world, we often chase achievements, material possessions, recognition, and the applause of others. We accumulate wealth, we build brands, we create success stories, but somewhere along the way, we lose sight of something more valuable than all of that, ourselves. We build everything outside, yet inside, we are strangers to our own soul. In today's society, we are constantly conditioned to associate wealth with material gain. From an early age, we are taught that success is measured by the size of our bank account, the luxury of our possessions, and the admiration we receive from others. This mindset pushes individuals to relentlessly chase after money, status, and recognition, believing that these are the ultimate indicators of fulfillment. However, time and again, we find that even those who seemingly have it all often confess to feeling empty inside. This paradox proves that outer riches do not automatically equate to inner peace or happiness. Inner alignment means being in harmony with your thoughts, emotions, and actions. It's about knowing what matters most to you and making choices that reflect your deepest values, not just your desire for public validation. When you are aligned internally, you don't feel the need to constantly prove yourself to others or chase after things to fill a void. Instead, you are content with who you are and what you stand for. You could be earning a modest living or living a simple life, but if your heart and mind are at peace, you are far richer than someone drowning in luxury but starving for meaning. There is a profound strength in having clarity of self and a grounded sense of purpose. This kind of wealth doesn't fluctuate with market trends, can't be stolen or taxed, and doesn't disappear when the applause fades. It gives you resilience when life throws you off balance, and it becomes a compass that guides your decisions. People with inner alignment often lead more fulfilling lives because their happiness is not dependent on external validation. They know what truly matters and are less likely to be swayed by shallow distractions. Moreover, when you focus on cultivating your inner self, the external world begins to shift accordingly. Relationships deepen, stress lessens, and life becomes more intentional. You begin to understand that while external success is not inherently bad, it should never come at the cost of your inner world. True wealth is not about having everything. It's about having the things that make you feel whole even when you stand alone. When your external life aligns with your internal truth, that's when you begin to live a truly rich and meaningful existence. In a world obsessed with image and perception, people are constantly striving to gain titles, accolades, and societal approval. Success is often equated with how others see you rather than how well you know yourself. But selflessness, the conscious knowledge of your own character, feelings, motives, and desires, is far more valuable than any public status you can acquire. When you truly know yourself, you stop needing the world to define you. You are no longer a prisoner to trends, comparisons, or social rankings, because your sense of self is rooted deep within, rather than being shaped by what others expect of you. Self-centeredness gives you the ability to understand why you react a certain way, what triggers your emotions, and what genuinely brings you fulfillment. People who lack this insight tend to live reactively, constantly chasing after things they believe will make them happy, only to find themselves back in the same cycle of emptiness. Status might win you recognition, but self-assertion might win you recognition, but self-assertion helps you make decisions that are right for your soul. It allows you to filter out the noise and hear your own voice. The voice that leads you toward genuine contentment and purpose. Furthermore, when you are self-psychosis, your actions become intentional and aligned with your beliefs. You stop doing things just because everyone else is doing them. You start setting boundaries, walking away from environments that don't serve you, and investing in growth that feels authentic. This doesn't mean life becomes easier, but it does become more meaningful. Every choice you make is backed by understanding, not impulse or peer pressure. That internal clarity becomes your true north, guiding you through chaos and confusion with a calm sense of direction. Self-centeredness also fosters humility. When you know your strengths and weaknesses, you don't have to pretend to be perfect. You can admit your flaws and work on them without fear of judgment. This makes you more grounded, more resilient, and ultimately more connected to others, not through superficial status, but through honest human connection. While status can be given or taken away by others, self-centeredness is an inner asset no one can strip from you. It is a lifelong treasure that empowers you to lead a life of authenticity, fulfillment, and depth. One of the most overlooked truths of modern life is that loneliness does not require physical isolation. It can exist even in the midst of a crowd. Many people are surrounded by friends, family, colleagues, and online followers, yet they feel an aching emptiness within. They attend social gatherings, engage in conversations, and receive compliments, but they still experience a deep sense of disconnection. This is because true connection begins with self-connection. If you are not in tune with who you are, no amount of external presence will ever fill that void. The loneliness of not knowing yourself is far more painful than any external solitude. You might be sharing moments with others, but if you're constantly wearing a mask, concealing your true thoughts, or pretending to be someone you're not, you're actually alone behind that performance. People may love the version of you they see, but if you can't recognize that person yourself, the love you receive feels hollow. It's not the lack of company that isolates you. It's the lack of company that isolates you. It's the lack of company that isolates you. This hidden loneliness is compounded by the pressure to appear happy and successful. Social media intensifies this by showcasing only the highlight reels of others' lives, making you feel like you're the only one struggling. You might compare yourself to smiling faces and curated images while suffering silently. That sense of being invisible, even when you're visible to so many, stems from a disconnection with your inner self. You can't expect others to truly see you when you haven't fully seen or accepted yourself yet. To overcome this, you must begin by cultivating a deep relationship with your own heart and mind. Spend time alone, not to isolate, but to discover. Journal, reflect, sit in silence, and ask yourself hard questions. When you begin to enjoy your own company and accept who you are, you'll find that loneliness fade. Not because more people are around you, but because you're finally present with yourself. From that place of self-connection, meaningful relationships with others naturally grow. And rooting not in position, not in academician, not in academician, not in academician. I buried. Not in our fast-paced digital world, distractions are everywhere. From social media notifications to streaming platforms, we're constantly engaged with something external. Many of us confuse constant activity with productivity, thinking that if we stay busy, we're doing well. But often, these distractions are not serving us. Behind every compulsive scrolling session, binge-watching spree, or frantic multitasking is often an attempt to avoid confronting something deeper. The quiet discomfort of being alone with ourselves. That discomfort signals an inner emptiness we may not know how to face. People rarely stop to ask themselves why they feel uneasy in silence or why they fear moments of stillness. The answer often lies in unprocessed emotions, unresolved trauma, or a lack of self-understanding. When we are disconnected from our inner world, silence feels threatening. It exposes the cracks in our identity that we try so hard to cover up with noise. We become dependent on the next notification, the next achievement, or the next dopamine hit, not because we enjoy them, but because they shield us from the vulnerability of self-exploration. This reliance on distractions becomes a form of emotional escapism. We tell ourselves we're too busy to reflect, too occupied to meditate, or too tired to journal. But in reality, we're just afraid of what might surface when the world quiets down. We fear facing questions like, am I truly happy? What do I actually want from life? Or, why do I feel incomplete despite everything I've achieved? Instead of answering these, we bury them beneath endless entertainment and external engagement, mistaking temporary relief for real peace. Only when we intentionally unplug from the chaos can we begin to feel again. Sitting in that silence may be uncomfortable at first, but it's necessary. It is in those moments of stillness that clarity, healing, and self-surfaceness are born. The distractions don't disappear overnight. But as we learn to embrace presence, we begin to reclaim our minds. We start to realize that fulfillment doesn't come from running away from our inner void, but from bravely stepping into it and learning to fill it with truth, not noise. From childhood, many of us are conditioned to please others, to follow rules, meet expectations, and earn approval. This habit often carries into adulthood, where we find ourselves making decisions based on what others might think, rather than what we truly want. We choose careers to impress. In doing so, we gradually silence our own voice. Living for others may bring temporary validation, but it slowly erodes our authenticity, leaving us disconnected from who we really are. The desire to be accepted is natural, but when it overrides our individuality, it becomes a trap. We start molding ourselves to fit into roles that aren't aligned with our true nature. The danger here is subtle. We may appear successful on the outside, but internally, we're living someone else's version of our life. Our passions fade, our purpose blurs, and our inner compass gets lost. Over time, this dissonance between our inner truth and outer actions creates frustration, confusion, and even depression. We begin to ask ourselves, how did I get here? Or whose life am I actually living? Living for others also means we become overly sensitive to external opinions.
Stop sama laba-laba.
Really me to be a responsible person, become a ruin. This means they don't get holden. Liberatora really give it's less to believe this also limits our growth, but also when we prioritize other people's happiness over our own, we lose the opportunity to create a life that feels right for us, not just looks right to them. Breaking free from this cycle requires courage. It means confronting uncomfortable truths, disappointing people, and perhaps standing alone for a while. But in choosing yourself, you gain something priceless: integrity. You begin to rebuild your life based on your own values, dreams, and beliefs. Instead of constantly seeking direction from others, you become your own guide. Believing authentically may not please everyone, but it will finally allow you to look in the mirror and recognize the person staring back. That recognition is the beginning of freedom. We are often taught that success is the ultimate goal. Success built without a foundation of success laid if they know life. Many people achieve their which is a big fear associates the ultimate goal. Success. Success. As a result, even after reaching the top, they feel unfulfilled, restless, and lost. Self-sustaining provides the emotional and psychological grounding necessary to sustain real success. It's the difference between pursuing something because it resonates deeply with your values and chasing it simply because it looks good on paper. When you lack self-sustenance, success becomes performative. You end up living for recognition, not fulfillment. Every then I'm not really know why you're doing what you're doing. Then I think a little suggestion, one big or bigger journey, they might then one big I think this kind of success is fragile. Since it's based on external rewards, it can collapse the moment those rewards disappear. A lost job, a failed venture, or a bad review can shatter your confidence because your identity was built entirely on outcomes, not purpose. But when you understand yourself, your strengths, weaknesses, motivations, and limits, you can redefine success on your own terms. You stop measuring your worth by how far you've gone and start measuring it by how aligned you feel with your own truth. Moreover, self-understanding allows you to pivot when necessary without losing yourself. Life is not static, and neither are we. As we grow, our definitions of success change. If we are not in tune with ourselves, we cling to old goals out of fear rather than inspiration. But when we know ourselves, we give ourselves permission to evolve. Success then becomes not a destination, but a result of living with clarity, authenticity, and courage. The journey of life is often seen as an outward one. Building careers, forming relationships, acquiring knowledge and experiences. But the most transformative journey is not the one out into the world, but the one inward. Meeting yourself, truly knowing, accepting, and embracing who you are, is the foundation of a meaningful life. It's not enough to simply exist or go through the motions. To truly live, you must first come home to yourself. That means confronting your fears, understanding your emotions, and peeling away the layers you've adopted to survive or to please others. Meeting yourself requires stillness and honesty. It's not an instant process. It's slow, raw, and sometimes painful. You may uncover wounds you've buried, regrets you've ignored, or dreams you've abandoned, but it's also where healing begins. You start to realize that you don't need to be fixed. You just need to be found. Underneath the noise, the doubts, and the masks is a self that's been waiting for your attention. This self is not perfect, but it is real. And that realness is what gives your life its depth and direction. When you finally meet yourself, your decisions become more conscious. You stop living by default and start living by design. You choose relationships that nurture you, work that inspires you, and paths that reflect your truest self. Life begins to feel less like a race and more like a journey of becoming. You no longer seek approval because you've given yourself permission to be enough. You begin to stand firm not in arrogance but in authenticity. You learn to navigate life with clarity because you are finally rooted in who you are. More importantly, this self-meeting allows you to connect deeply with others. You can only give love, honesty, and presence when you've given those things to yourself first. The more you know yourself, the more you understand the human experience, and the more compassion you develop for both yourself and others. Meeting yourself is not the end of the journey. It's the true beginning. It's when life stops being a performance and becomes a deeply personal, vibrant, and meaningful adventure. So as you walk through life, remember this truth. Having everything means nothing if you don't have yourself. The world may praise your success, admire your possessions, or envy your image, but none of that will matter if deep down you feel lost in your own story. Find the courage to turn inward, to meet yourself with honesty and compassion. Build a life rooted not in what you have, but in who you are, because when you finally have yourself, you're no longer just surviving, you're truly living.